Doctors in the United States say that the country is in coronavirus freefall, with new infections soaring and hospitals running out of space. This past weekend's 4th of July celebrations mean that a new surge may have already been seeded. More than 130,000 people have died in America from the virus, a fact that the U.S. president continues to ignore. On Saturday, he told the country that 99% of coronavirus cases are harmless. That statement is 100% not true. I'm Brent Goff in Berlin. This is The Day.
We got hit by the virus that came from China, but now we have tested almost 40 million people. By so doing, we show cases, 99% of which are totally harmless. We are now in the process of defeating the radical left, the Marxists, the anarchists, the agitators, the looters. The more you lie and demean and collude, the more credibility you lose.
Also coming up tonight, the pandemic forced it to shut down 4 months ago. Today, the world's most visited museum, the Louvre in Paris, reopened. The crowds are once again admiring the Mona Lisa, but now she is the only one in the room without a face mask.
Normally, whenever I've come before, it was crazy the number of people trying to get in. Now you just have a few people moving around in this colossal space. It's really surprising.
Oh, to our viewers on PBS in the United States and all around the world, welcome. We begin the day at the start of what is expected to be a horrible week. That is how some doctors are describing the outlook for the United States and its losing effort to contain and slow the coronavirus. In the first 5 days of this month, the U.S. reported a record high of new infections 3 times, more than 250,000 new cases since the start of July. And don't forget the 4th of July. The Independence Day holiday was a long weekend that should have been heavy on face masks and social distancing and light on large gatherings. It was not. Today, as mayors and governors admit that they lifted restrictions too soon, they also warned of yet another surge in new cases and hospitalizations. More sick, perhaps more deaths, and most totally preventable if everyone works together, if everyone wears a face mask in public. The U.S. president, presiding over 2 large gatherings last weekend, wore no face mask. Today, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo called Trump out for helping to spread the virus.
President, don't be a co-conspirator of COVID. Do one simple thing. Acknowledge to the American people that COVID exists. It is a major problem. It's going to continue until we admit it and each of us stands up to do our part. If he does not acknowledge that, then he is facilitating the virus. He is enabling the virus.
All right, for more, let's stay with this story in the United States and go to our Washington Bureau Chief, Ines Pohl. Ines, good evening to you. The coronavirus in America, it is looking like a story of 2 countries, one which learned the lessons of the virus and the other which is being pummeled by the virus still. I want you to take a listen to what the New York governor said today, the good numbers about his state and the sad statistics about the rest of the U.S. Take a listen.
Best news, a number of lives lost. And we're down to 9. It's unimaginable at one time that we would be this slow. Obviously, you don't want to even see 9. You don't want 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. But this is great, great news. You now have 38 states in this country with an increasing virus rate of infection. It's only getting worse. It's not getting better. You look at states like Texas, you look at Arizona, you look at those curves. I mean, we know those curves. We've seen them. We've been there, done that. This is a frightening situation across this country.
I mean, Ines, it looks like Florida, Texas, Arizona, California, they may have to go through what New York went through just a few months ago.
It indeed looks like it, Brent, and the figures are really horrifying. And I mean, and when you talk to people here on the ground, my feeling is that more and more are really aiming for leadership from the White House because they understand that the take Donald Trump kind of takes and saying, you know, we leave it to the governors, we leave it to the states to deal with this crisis is not working out. I mean, you just mentioned the figures, 100,000 Americans already died of the virus. Every day 100,000 more get infected. We will see probably a new wave after this holiday weekend. So leadership from within the White House is needed.
Ines, talk to me about public regrets. Some mayors are now saying that they reopened too soon.
Right, mayors and also governors, right? Because, well, they all downplayed the virus. They said it's not so bad. I mean, it only kind of really kills the old and the weak, and all the others are fine. But now we see this is not true. We see that many young, healthy people die of the virus here in the United States and all around the world. So they take new action. They kind of stop phase number 2 or number 3 from happening. That means they do not open more spaces, quite the opposite. They close down restaurants, they make wearing a mask mandatory. So we really see a shift in many big cities and many states as well, as the figures are increasing that dramatically.
You know, you said over the weekend the U.S. president tried to play down the virus. He focused on these culture wars that he's using to push his re-election campaign. You covered the election there 4 years ago. Do you think that Trump can win again with this type of race-based tactic?
It's still too early to say, Brent. I mean, what we see in many national polls that his support is going down. My impression is that he kind of focuses really only on his hardcore supporters. I'm not sure if this is enough. He has to reach out to those who are still of kind in the middle and a little bit undecided. And as you said, on 3rd of July and also on 4th of July, he gave this really very divisive speech, kind of neglecting the fact that the United States are really in the midst of rethinking their heritage, that more and more people are really willing to take a critical take on their path. And I think if he keeps neglecting that, I'm not so sure if he will be able to win the White House over again.
Today, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that states may require their electoral college delegates to follow the popular vote in the presidential election. Now, the electoral college, that's important here. Hillary Clinton, she won the popular vote. We know that Donald Trump, he won the electoral college count and became president. How significant is today's ruling with the election, the presidential election, now only 4 months away?
You know, I mean, the electors are now kind of really, they have to follow the majority of the state, of the place they are kind of situated. So let's have a look at Texas, for example. So if the majority of the Texans would vote Republican, then every electoral would have to follow that vote, and they wouldn't be able to follow their consciousness. So maybe this is a little bit of an advantage for Donald Trump, but well, it's hard to say. It's a very complicated thing, this electoral college, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Complicated is a mild understatement there. Ines Pohl in Washington. Ines, as always, thank you.